City workers in Edmonton are set to walk off the job this morning. Nova Scotia Police Review Committee members have been named. Loblaws experiments with scanning receipts as customers leave. 2 employees fired at the Office of the Auditor General for moonlighting as consultants. And the UK is closer to sending asylum seekers to Rwanda. Good morning. It's Thursday, March 14th. I'm Nora. Here are your headlines. First to Edmonton, where city workers are set to walk off the job this morning. The union, the Civic Service Union 52, represents 6,000 employees. The union is asking for, frankly, the lowest wage increases, 1.5%, 1.5%, and 2%. And these are retroactive sums for 2021, 2022, and 2023, when, interest was way above these numbers. In response, the city is offering even less, 3% total for all of those 3 years. They're also negotiating for increases in 2024 and 2025. Members of the union voted 87.6% in favor of striking. That number should have been 100% because 3% over 3 years when inflation was I'm not even sure, 22%. It's ridiculous. That's insulting. The strike is set to start at 11 o'clock this morning. The president of CSU 52, Lanny Chudyk, said that they absolutely do not want to strike. It would be the first strike in almost 50 years in Edmonton, reports CTV News' Diego Romero. The city manager, Andre Corbeau, said they wouldn't be able to maintain city services because city staff, quote, do important frontline work and they do it very well, unquote. Corbeau should check out what workers in Quebec have been winning. It's not 3% over 3 years. That is for sure. Good luck to those workers. And of course, you should get to your local picket line if you can. And by the way, folks, this is a funny way to drop a little announcement. Sandy and Nora, we're coming to Edmonton, April 20th. Save the date. We're going to be doing an afternoon show in Edmonton. Okay, enough about that. We'll announce it more on the main show. Next, how many committee members will it take for Nova Scotia to review policing in the province? Well, a new panel will be comprised of 16. So there's your answer, 16 people. The, quote, Policing Review Engagement Advisory Committee, unquote, great name, guys, is supposed to be looking at the structure of policing in that province. It was recommended by the Mass Casualty Commission in the aftermath of the mass shooting in Portapique. Jean Laroche from CBC reports that the committee is going to have some expensive help, too. They'll be throwing almost $700,000 to Deloitte to act as a consultant. Deloitte will be doing a, quote, broad technical review, unquote, and, quote, broad public engagement, unquote. Folks, this is work that governments used to do. They used to just pay a bunch of employees to do a broad technical review, which is called research, and to coordinate broad public engagement. They would have people actually do this. And you know what? There's absolutely no reason why anyone would need to call in a private international consulting agency to do the work of public engagement. My goodness. The co-chairs are Lindell Smith, who is a city councillor, and Haley Crichton from the Department of Justice. The group has several community group representatives on it, including representatives from anti-racist groups, Muslim, Black, and Mi'kmaq groups. And there are 2 people representing municipalities. 3 of the 16 will be representing police, including 1 representative of the RCMP. Next to Loblaws and their clown show of amazing ideas. Saba Aziz from Global News is reporting that Loblaws is testing receipt scanners, meaning that you won't be able to leave unless you scan your receipt and it matches what you're leaving with. They're piloting this at 4 stores, 1 in Windsor, 1 in Woodstock, 1 in Oakville, and 1 in my hometown, Georgetown. The Georgetown store, by the way, is a favorite one for Galen Weston, who used to regularly drop in on it on his way to Loblaws headquarters. Employees hated it to see the boss of the boss of the boss just drop in and comment on how they were doing their jobs. I don't know if that's actually a true story, but certainly that's what folks who work there have always said had happened. Loblaws is claiming they must do this because receipt scamming will help stop, quote, organized retail crime, unquote, which Dave Bauer, the company spokesperson, claims, quote, has only gotten worse, unquote. Organized retail crime, by the way, isn't, I don't think, a thing that exists. It was invented by business groups in the United States to convince people of the need for more in-store security. Sandy and Nora, we talked about this a couple of times actually in the show in the past. If theft is rising, it's near certainly more connected to the rising cost of living than any organized crime ring to coordinate stealing Cheerios, for example. Anyway, retailers claim that there has been thefts involving, quote, some form of violence, unquote, and that has increased by 300% over the last 4 years. Police reported crime, though, shows an increase of 31% for thefts of under 5,000. So that's a tenfold difference in the police statistics and the statistics being reported by the Retail Council of Canada. Now, for some reason, Aziz quotes notorious Loblaws fan Sylvain Charlebois, who I will not quote here, though he warns that the move might scare shoppers out of their stores. Now, Loblaws is actually just following the path that's already been treaded by Costco. Costco already does this. Apparently, I don't know. I've never been inside of a Costco, so I can't confirm. But apparently, you have to show your bill as you leave a Costco. And Costco has a written rule with Costco members that allows them to do this. You have to consent to having your receipt scanned as you leave the store if you are a member of Costco. What isn't clear is whether or not Loblaws will be able to do the same thing, as you do not have to be a member to shop at Loblaws. Next, there apparently is quite the industry of federal civil servants who all run side hustles as federal civil servants. CBC's Peter Zimonich is reporting that the Auditor General's office has fired 2 employees who had been moonlighting with other Government of Canada contracts. The employees didn't tell their managers that they were doing this, and the office says that neither staff person was an auditor. A third employee is still under investigation. Irritatingly, the Office of the Auditor General is not naming the companies for which they worked. Zimonich doesn't explain what the rationale is behind that decision. The rules of the Office of the Auditor General do allow people to work outside of their work, provided the extra work doesn't conflict with the work at the Auditor General or be an apparent or actual conflict of interest. And the burden of proof to demonstrate that there is no conflict lies with the worker themselves, but a manager has to still sign off on it. It was the Auditor General who uncovered that a private firm was paid more than $7 million to do work on the ArriveCan app that was actually owned by an employee of the Department of National Defense. And his company, Dalian, has received $200 million in contracts since 2015. And finally, the UK is planning to pay asylum seekers to move to Rwanda. Each person would be given £300 to move there under this new plan. It's been drawn up by the ghouls in the British government to process people who've been refused asylum in Britain, but who cannot be sent back to where they're from because their country has been deemed unsafe. Which begs the question, why would someone's claim be deemed unsafe if the country that they're coming from is dangerous? That is literally what the definition of an asylum seeker is. You can't go home because it's dangerous. It's not mentioned in this article from Al Jazeera, but they do note that the plan is not the same one that the UK had developed a few years ago to force people to move to Rwanda. This time, if someone is removed, it would be voluntary and they would be able to choose Rwanda and a handsome £3,000 parting gift. Once there, they will be allowed to work, though the unemployment rate in Rwanda is above 15%. That's compared to the employment rate in the UK, which is just over 3%, which suggests actually their employment possibilities are better in the UK. Kevin Hollingrake, a junior minister, said that while the payout per person is a lot, it will be worth it. The first bill, the one that would force people to move to Rwanda, was ruled to be unlawful by the Supreme Court for violating international law. No doubt. Now, in case you're wondering what's been up in Rwanda lately, well, Victoire Ingabire has just been denied the right to run for president in July. She has been a critic of Paul Kagame, the longtime president there, and she served 8 years in prison of a 15-year sentence before she was pardoned in 2018. But because of the criminal past, which actually seems trumped up, she's being denied from being able to run. Rwanda has also been accused of funding M23 rebels who are currently terrorizing parts of Congo. Seems like a great plan to ask people to move there. The article doesn't explain why Rwanda, what exactly it is about Rwanda that the UK has chosen in this situation. Those are your headlines for Thursday, March 14th. I'm Nora. You are listening to this podcast at sandynora.com, on the Real News Network podcast feed, and anywhere you get your podcasts. I hope you have a wonderful Thursday. It's almost Friday. Oh my God, we're almost through this week. How fast did that fly? I will talk to you tomorrow.